Hello beautiful, and thank you for clicking on today's video. As I'm sure you know if you've been following me for any length of time, I both try to live by and abdicate for living a minimal, simple, and slow lifestyle. Unfortunately, in today's world, especially in the United States where I'm from, this is getting increasingly harder to do. We are constantly bombarded by million-dollar ad campaigns convincing us what we need and what we need to be buying right here and now. I, over the years, through living a minimal and simple lifestyle, have sort of fine-tuned the, do I really need this? Part of my brain, but I can understand how that's not always so simple to do, especially with things like targeted ads that are happening these days. So today I thought I would make that sort of decision making just the least bit easier for you and talk about some things that I personally feel are completely unnecessary and you do not need to be spending your money on anymore. So let's go ahead and get into it. Number one on the list is food that you consistently don't finish or don't intend to finish. So I'm talking about food that you buy week after week and then end up throwing out because it goes bad before you ever actually use it, or those spices that you buy for one specific recipe that you were inspired to make, and then that spice sits in your cabinet until the end of time. This is particularly an issue I have found in the United States because of the way food is packaged and sold, but there are a couple of solutions here to help save you money and also just save waste overall. Most spices, herbs, meats, and vegetables can be frozen, so if you happen to buy too much and you can catch them before they start getting moldy and gross, if you throw them in the freezer, you can extend their shelf life by a couple of months. Additionally, a cool thing to keep in mind that I do a lot with my neighbors and also my friends is that if I'm making a very specific recipe and I only need this much of a spice that I know that it's not commonly used in my kitchen, I'll just borrow it. And with these two tips, and literally only these two tips, I have saved a lot of waste and also a lot of money with food waste in my kitchen. I also tend to feel less guilty because things are being wasted less in my household. Another thing to consider is if you do happen to buy food and it's very consistently not being finished by the end of the week, maybe take a break from it. I find that if I very consistently am not finishing a certain food, recently it was red bell peppers, it's probably just because me or my family are tired of them and we just need a little bit of break before we pick it back up. So if you find that very consistently something's not being eaten, take a break. Number two is micro fashion trends. I have found that with the rise of social media and especially TikTok, that micro fashion trends have shrunk to the point where things are only popular for the duration of a couple Instagram photos. It used to be that we had 4 shopping seasons a year to go corresponding with the 4 seasons of the year. And then when I was in high school, I recall things kind of going in and out of fashion on a 52-week scale where each week there were new pieces of inventory being brought in as the rise of fast fashion sort of came to be. But nowadays it really feels like some of these things are only popular for like a couple of days before they're no longer worn again. Not only is this terrible for the environment, but it's also terrible for your wallet and also you being able to discern what your personal style is at all. On this channel, I've made quite a few pieces of content regarding finding your personal style and how to develop a capsule wardrobe that works for you, and I'll go ahead and link those down below. But I truly find that once you discover what your color palette is, what your personal style is, and what your clothing needs are, it becomes much easier to step away from fast fashion, and not only do you feel more confident about yourself day to day, but you're saving money and also not being so wasteful with clothes that only get worn once or twice anyway. Now, I'm not completely anti-fast fashion because I think in today's world, fast fashion in some degree is pretty hard to avoid for most people. However, what I recommend is if you are going to shop fast fashion, instead of shopping these micro trends that are very evidently only going to be popular for a couple of days or at their most a couple of weeks, I would recommend finding things of good quality fabrics and things that do align with your personal style, because then you're at least going to get more wears out of it. Number 3 on the list is Uni-use items. So I've talked on this channel about multitasker items that I use both in my bathroom and in my kitchen, and that is because that is where I find the bulk of Uni-use items tend to coexist. And if you don't know, a uni-use item is usually a very specific contraption or gadget that is used for one purpose and one purpose only. You can take these pictures as examples here. We have an avocado slicer, we have a cherry pitter, a melon bottler, and the list goes on. I find that oftentimes these items are difficult to clean, so most people opt to not use them even after purchasing them. And in addition to that, they do tend to create a lot of clutter in our kitchens, bathrooms, and homes when you open the drawer and there's just a bunch of items that can only do one thing. Now, some of these uni-use items can be incredibly useful for certain individuals' lives. I do know somebody who uses their cherry pitter all summer long, every single summer. So if you're that person, I'm not telling you to get rid of your cherry pitter, but I'm saying maybe it's a good idea to go through your kitchen and go through your bathroom where these items are most likely to live and just determine what you actually need versus what you don't, and then pitch the clutter when you do make that determination. So in keeping with the theme of the video, I also highly recommend that you stop purchasing these uni-use items. Most of these things can be accomplished by other tools that already coexist within your house. And if you are pretty certain that you want to buy a uni-use item, what I would say there is make sure that it's something where you've hit a roadblock on that item more than once. And what I mean by that is going back to the cherry pitter. Let's say you've noticed yourself all throughout July, every time you buy cherries, getting annoyed because of the pits. Then, if you've noticed that that need has come up multiple times, it's probably not a stupid purchase. But if it's something that you just happen to see and impulsively buy because it seemed like a good idea, my advice to you would be to think twice, maybe give yourself a day in between the point of learning about the item and purchasing the item, and you'll probably end up with more money in your wallet and less clutter in your house. Next on the list is memberships that you personally do not get the full value from. There are some people with very expensive gym memberships that go to the gym at least 5 times a week, and in which case, price per use, it works out to be a really good value for them. The same can be true for things like Amazon Prime. If you are somebody who owns a small business or you just order from Amazon all of the time, a Prime membership probably makes more sense than for somebody like me who hardly ever orders from Amazon. So I encourage you guys to not only think about price per use every time you're considering signing up for one of these services, but also go through the services that you're already subscribed to, sort of try to figure out how often you're actually using them, break it down price per use every single month, and determine if it's something that you still need to be spending money on. I found for me, the amount of subscriptions that I cut down to really saved a lot of money, and I don't miss the ones that I'm no longer subscribed to at all. And the good thing with this is if you find yourself missing it, you can always resubscribe later. Currently, what I am subscribed to is Netflix. I have a couple of things on auto renewal that I get from Chewy for my dog, a gym membership, and I think that's actually it. And I used to have a lot of subscriptions, and I really can tell you I don't miss spending the money on them at all. This is future me. I also have a Costco membership, which is probably my favorite membership that I've ever had. I go to Costco all the time. I feel like Costco for me is so worth it, but I do have friends in my life where Costco isn't worth it for them. So really consider any membership you have and just see if it's worth spending the money on at all. Next on the list is going to be single-use waste. This is something that I find a lot of, again, especially Americans, spend a lot of excess money on unnecessarily. In addition to spending money unnecessarily, it's also pretty wasteful and impactful on the environment. Now, I'm not here to tell you that you as an individual with your individual purchasing power can change the effects of climate change that are currently happening to our Earth. And I'm not saying that that's your responsibility or you should feel guilty in the places where you can't make those changes or those swaps. What I am saying is it is a lot easier to eliminate some of these single-use items from your life than you may be considering, and it'll save you a lot of money in the long run. Sometimes single-use items are completely unavoidable. However, there are instances I can give you in my life where I have found that I have been able to completely rule out the single-use item entirely or cut it down to using it very minimally. Number one would be paper towels, which I've swapped out with rags. The only time that I use paper towels now is if something is like a biohazard. So if I'm cleaning up doggy urine or poop, or if I'm cleaning up something like raw meat, I'll use paper towels to be able to dispose of it really well. Otherwise, I pretty much exclusively use rags. Another place that was really easy to make a swap, especially if you're a baker, is instead of buying these paper cupcake and muffin liners, opt for silicone ones. You make the purchase once for like $8 or $9, and then you can use them over and over again, saving you money pretty quickly after the purchase, depending upon how often you bake with them. Another example, and something that I've talked about on this channel here before, is Clorox wipes. They are super convenient for being able to quickly sanitize something in your kitchen, but I have found that making my homemade all-purpose cleanser and then just spraying it and using a rag works just as quickly and also just as effectively. And I will go ahead and link the video where I shared my disinfecting all-purpose, super easy and inexpensive homemade cleaner down below. Another good swap that a lot of people I think don't think about making, especially if you live in an area where the water isn't very delicious, instead of constantly buying packs of plastic water bottles from Walmart or Costco, opt for getting a filter attached to your sink. You purchase it once a year, often for under $150. And if you do the price breakdown of buying water bottles all the time versus that filter annually, it does break down to be less expensive overall and also generally less wasteful. And the last one on the list is outgrowing your space. It's estimated that 38% of Americans currently are paying monthly for a storage unit because they've outgrown the storage space in their homes. And it's also self-reported by that 38% that over 50% of them don't even remember what's in their storage units that they're paying monthly for. I find that most of the time people who have storage units, it's because they've collected multiple generations of stuff because of people in their life passing on, and they have some sort of a guilt associated with parting ways with these items. And I'm not here to tell you that that's necessarily right or wrong, but I would like to give you guys just sort of a perspective switch. And that is, it is, in my opinion, more valuable to have less and have it be on display and cherished rather than to have more and have it sitting in closets and storage units just collecting dust. So what I always recommend to my friends and family who are struggling with parting ways with things, especially from past loved ones, is to understand that not everything that a person owns represents who they are. So I would say pick a few things, or maybe even a few dozen things, depending upon how close you were to this person. Display them in your house in an authentic way that represents your relationship with that person, and then try to part ways with the rest. Something that can also help here that I've talked about in my How I Declutter video that I'll go ahead and leave linked down below is to have a good home for the things that you're parting with. I find that this can help alleviate some of that guilt. So you can give it to friends or families who actually want these items. You can sell these items. You can donate them to antique shops so you know that people who want to buy these items will buy these items. Overall, I find that finding your items a good home, or even being able to make some sort of compensation off the items, feels easier somehow than just dropping them off at a donation center. So you could give that a try and stop spending money on a storage unit if you have one that you don't actually need. All right, and that is gonna be it for this video. If you've made it to the end, I'd like to apologize for the inconsistent lighting in this video. My sweet puppy, who's right over there, is sick, so I've been having to sort of film during times and in places that I wouldn't normally film in, just because he needs a lot more monitoring than even a puppy who was not sick would need. So I didn't really get to pick the time of day or the location that I'm filming this in, so I apologize, and I promise that soon the quality will get better as it was before, and even better than that when I upgrade some of my equipment. Let me know in the comments down below some things that you feel are unnecessary purchases that you see people making. Thank you so much for liking this video and subscribing if you're not already, and with all of that being said, I'll see you in a couple days with another video. Bye!